Speedway Report is a production of ZTV. Abu Dhabi closed out the Formula One calendar, and many walk out of the F1 paddock with new 2021 destinations. And Lewis Hamilton sure drove his heart out after being cleared of coronavirus. We've got all this and more coming up. Welcome to Speedway Report, Monday, December the 14th, 2020, from the shores of Lake Norman and Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. I'm Patrick Reynolds, and thanks for joining the fastest half hour in racing. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel yet? Right after the show, if you have not, hop onto YouTube, search and find us. We'd love to have you as we get delivered into your mailbox each and every week. One real on-track action race to talk about. Those were my three teasers heading into the show. It's a Formula One finale in Abu Dhabi, which was won by Max Verstappen for Red Bull. Pole to pole, pretty much a non-eventful race. We shouldn't say that because a lot of guys would disagree with me on that, but a lot of the spark was off the track and not so much on the track. Now let's start with the good stuff. We are within 2 weeks of Christmas, and I'm watching live racing. That's pretty sporty. I enjoy that a lot. I don't have much use for the NFL. Not a stick and ball guy. Not watching other stuff. I'm a racer. So when we can throw on the TV and check out some racing this close to Christmas, I'm all for it. It's fantastic for me. Now, granted, around here in Charlotte, North Carolina, the weather was good, so I was out and about. Did not watch it start, the Formula One race start to finish in one shot, but thanks to the miracles of technology, I was able to see it. I love the fact that we're racing this deep in the season. COVID-19 had so much to do with that, and like in a lot of our lives, there was opportunity here if we looked for it. Not everything went as planned, and a lot of it was a bummer. And yeah, all the sucky stuff that we're all complaining about, yes, it's all there. I'm not saying it wasn't. However, if you look hard enough, there is some good. For instance, like I just said, December 13th, live Major League Motorsports. I'm going to give that 2 thumbs up. It was coronavirus induced. However, let's see if we can maybe talk the FIA into giving this Christmas gift every single year when I can tune into a Formula One race on Sunday morning and look on the calendar, and Christmas is the following week. I got to consider that a plus, a little bonus points there from COVID-19. Now, let's go to the downside of this thing. Yeah, we saw racing, but is Abu Dhabi the best place to end the series? This was a strong topic yesterday on the Sky Sports coverage, as this place is probably second to Monaco as far as no passing zones. There are a few opportunities to pass, but not a lot. This track is tight. This track is flat. Monaco is the biggest grandiose show of the year, but as far as the race itself, it is tough to get some side-by-side action around that joint. Abu Dhabi, a little bit better, but would we have the season finale there? I don't know. Maybe the same brains that thought NASCAR was a good idea to finish their National Touring Series at Phoenix thought the same thing about Abu Dhabi. They really didn't, but you got these lackluster races. When we were just the Sakir Grand Prix 1 week ago gave us everything we wanted and more. Just the track layout, the racing, the results, the surprises. It was just spectacular start to finish. So we come into the season finale with high expectations. And from the race before, yeah, I was let down a little bit. They mentioned during the race, where's the spark? This race needs some spark. You're right. It does, and it never really happened. Verstappen cruised, wound up in victory lane. The Mercedes round out the podium with Bottas in second, Lewis Hamilton in third. And what a drive by Lewis Hamilton, missing the previous week's GP because he tested positive for COVID-19. Then got enough negative tests where he could participate this week in Abu Dhabi. But his third place, he said, wore him out as much as that any race ever had. He's in rough shape. He's in great physical condition, but after the race, he was one tired guy. He says he didn't feel right. I don't know what that means exactly, whether it was fatigue or illness. COVID-19 affects everyone differently, but he certainly was not at 100% when the checkers flew, and he stood in third place on the podium. I want to say hi to Jan and Thomas, who are joining us tonight. Hey, everybody. Hey, both of you. Thanks for tuning in tonight. So Hamilton, a heck of a drive, just testing positive the week before and sitting out the secure race, and here he is completing the podium in a Mercedes. You know how you knew he was sick? Valtteri Bottas beat him. Was that my out loud voice? Well, hey, you know, I just call him like I see him here. Bottas had been some horrible finishes lately with some 8ths and 14ths and well out of the points and just couldn't keep it together for him. And with a runner-up finish, nice way for Mercedes to finish the year. Verstappen at Red Bull on top of the podium. And Verstappen challenged his boys at Red Bull, said, hey, fellas, we ended the season strong, which they did. Gave Mercedes a lot of game as the second half of the series went on. And I think the Mercedes stranglehold, it's just a hunch. I think Red Bull's got something for Mercedes in the Silver Arrows next year. Verstappen has challenged his team to begin next year as strong as they finished this year. Now, Mercedes had plenty of power, but Red Bull could just keep game with them, hold serve with them in Abu Dhabi. And I don't know, it's tough to say how much Hamilton's drive was affected by being sick, how much of his drive was actually affected by him already clinching the championship, and how much risk he was willing to take. Did not start up front, did not finish up front, but this is the first time ever that Hamilton has finished in the third place position at Abu Dhabi. Local to me here in the Lake Norman area, I call it the Kannapolis, North Carolina Formula One team because they kind of sort of are. Haas, the final race for Kevin Magnussen behind these cars. He's one of the guys. What's he going to do in 2021? No Formula One ride yet. He'll probably wind up driving something. One of the question marks as we head into the off season for Magnussen. Haas is going to have a brand new lineup next year, and I like Romain Grosjean and I like Kevin Magnussen from what I've seen of them. Not that I've had any one-on-one personal time with them, but you got to wonder about the development of the cars, of the Haas cars. They were very slow near the back of the pack in Abu Dhabi. They've been really non-factors for much of their Formula One careers in the last 5 years. And you just don't know where that's coming from. Was it time for a driver change? Yes, it was. Is it the cars, the chassis, the engines? What do we got to do here to get these things better? Well, they're working on the cars all the time. They have not changed drivers. You got to do something. There's just too much money being spent. And I like these guys. I like Haas. Stuart Haas is right down the road in Kannapolis here. The Haas shop, the Formula One shop, is right behind that, even though they do have another shop in the United Kingdom. And you have to do something. There's so much money being thrown around. The personalities, it's business, boys. We got to go. It's too bad about Grosjean. Made such a headline the last few weeks with his bad crash and basically life-saving incident that he was able to step out and is still with us. I think that's fantastic. Grosjean, what's he going to do next year? I don't know. What's Magnussen going to do next year? I don't know. We're going to have a Schumacher back in. We're going to have a Fittipaldi back on the grid in 21. I think that's pretty exciting. So we're going to give to get here. And certainly just the hometown guys. I root for the Haas guys. I'd like to see Magnussen and Grosjean land somewhere. Formula One guys, when they're recycled out, often land in sports car racing. The door is open here in IndyCar racing if you can bring the money. As you can see, the whole McLaren deal and James Hinchcliffe. And gosh, it's a mess over here. But I'd like to see a bigger field than IndyCar if we could bring some of that money here and expand some of the manufacturers and some of the chassis here. I'd like to get us above and beyond, far and away, a Formula One grid of 20-something cars, and in Formula One just 20. But I'd love to see IndyCar expand on that. Maybe those guys can go over here. Maybe I can start the rumor tonight that'll bring the money to the IndyCar series. Unlikely, but, I got to. Why not? Why shouldn't I contribute to the sport as well? I can't contribute the dollars. I might as well contribute the scuttlebutt. Another guy, What's he going to do next year? This is a crime. Sergio Perez. He had a heartbreaking race yesterday at the GP. Racing Point, he was out very early with an engine failure. This thing just lost power, ground to a halt, and he brought out a safety car because he was in a bad spot. But Perez finishes the year with his first win, as well as fourth in the Drivers' Championship. Will he be back? Possibly. Where? Gosh. Throw him in this fishbowl of names that I've already said so far. We've got a big silly season, which often in the United States, this stuff is already kind of figured out by now, and we're leaving the F1 Grand Prix world with a whole lot of unknowns that you just don't have over here in NHRA, NASCAR, IndyCar. Silly season never really ends, but usually dominoes start to fall about midsummer, and then by the fall, things are buttoned up for the following year. These guys, there's a lot of cars and drivers walking out of the paddock in Formula One. They don't know where they're going to go next year. Neither do I. It's tough to say. I got a little cheat sheet here and a scorecard here I'm going to read to you of a few places that I know a few guys are going to go. But I don't know where everybody's going to go. So that'll give us something to talk about here in the winter as we go into December and January. But it's a huge crime for Perez. The drive that he did, fourth in the Drivers' Championship, we don't even know if he's ever going to drive a Formula One car again. Got his first win. Tremendous job for Racing Point, and out he goes. This sport is brutal. A team on the rise, McLaren. Believe it or not, I did the math on this. This was a headline to me. I did the math. McLaren was third in the Constructors' Championship this year. I don't have to do any math there. Here's where the math comes in. It's kind of cool. Their total of 202 points for the Constructors' Championship. This was only 5 points shy of their 2018 and 2019 Constructors' Championship point totals combined. Tell me McLaren isn't back on the rise. This is good to see. I'm looking forward to their involvement further in the IndyCar series here in the States. And that's certainly bleeding off their improvement in Formula One. But gosh, were they that bad in 18 and 19 compared to their impressive runs here? They were 5th and 6th at Sakir yesterday, and Abu Dhabi yesterday, not Sakir. But yeah, just these consistent runs. They're constantly in the points, and that's something where they struggled with. The biggest struggle that we saw for them, the legend of Frank Williams. God, rest in peace, Frank. But Williams, in the first time in the history of Williams racing, they have 0 constructors' points all season. Neither driver, neither car could get in the top 10 finish for any race this year. It is heartbreaking with the history of these guys. I've seen it here in the States too with the rise and fall of legendary teams. In NASCAR, we've seen the cycle of Petty Enterprises, of the Wood Brothers. So Newman Haas in the IndyCar series. And this is the cycle where Williams is down. 0 constructors' points. Could not even close out the season with anything in the championship points. Heartbreaking. But here's where we do know who is going where. Here's the deal. Do I sound like Jake from State Farm or Joe Biden? Here's the deal. Okay, Charles Leclerc will be welcoming in Carlos Sainz to Ferrari. So you got Leclerc and Sainz from Ferrari. Sainz comes from McLaren. Sebastian Vettel moves over to Racing Point. They are going to become Aston Martin for next year, and Vettel will be a teammate to Lance Stroll. This is where Perez is out for Vettel. Don't know where Perez is going to wind up. And then Leclerc and Sainz will be in Ferrari. We're going to need a program when we start next year. I certainly am, as they get this stuff straight and rattled off. And then there's still a lot of holes to fill. That was kind of surprising to me. There's seats, there's drivers, but everybody's waiting for money. Money is going to make this go around. It's not just plug and play with drivers and seats. It's who's going to write the checks. I don't know. But there's a lot of empty seats, or not a lot of empty seats, but there's a lot of puzzle pieces still to be put in play. Heck, Hamilton's contract extension isn't even done yet, and the Christmas is next week as we do this show live. In the short track world, the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour has released a 14-race schedule for 2021. As we talked about here several weeks ago, Thompson Speedway in Connecticut, nowhere to be found on the schedule. They will be having their own mini-series as somewhat of a tour cars. They'll have the Icebreaker, they'll have the World Series, and the World Series will bring back the running of the Thompson 300. We can just not catch a break with the modifieds. We have missing the Thompson 300 for years. We begged for the 300 to come back, but the Thompson Speedway was a staple on the Modified Tour schedule. Now we have the 300 back, and it will be not be part of the Modified Tour schedule. Much like the Formula One seats, this sport is a bear. Oh, this is tough to do. However, I'm thrilled the 300 is coming back, and after 2020, just all bets are off. There's just whatever can happen to put a schedule together to go racing. We gotta love that and be favored to it. Richmond Raceway will return. The tour will conclude at Stafford for the fall final. Modifieds, I just remember when I was a kid of just modifieds. And I'll expand on this a little bit. It was when it was called modifieds racing. You just knew everybody had a modified. They were all on equal ground. And you would have a modified race, and everybody that had a modified would show up. But there was only one modified class. It didn't matter with all these tracks running Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights, Thursday nights, what have you. Modified was a modified, and when we'd have a big race, over 100 cars would show up. Now there are so many splintered modified divisions in the Northeast between the touring series and the weekly series and then support series, and it just wasn't like that when I was growing up. All the short tracks, the lead class was the modifieds. When we have a big race, everybody would go to that, and 100 cars would show up. And Thompson 300, great example. Over 100 cars would show up. 50 would make the show. Huge race. Now it is just splintered. Thompson used to have its own style of limited modified, which their weekly racing series, SK Modifieds at Stafford, SK Lights at Stafford, the Race of Champions, the Valenti Modified Series, Modified Tour. There's other smaller series as well. I don't know where to begin with this. What kind of field will we get for the 300 at Thompson? What kind of fields will we get for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour? Your guess is as good as mine, but they've got a 14-race schedule. It will begin in April and conclude in September. The fact that there is a schedule, I guess we're all optimistic for 2021. And I'll be following all the moves in Formula One as we come to the following weeks here. Come up through Christmas. Anything that happens during the next week before the 25th, I'll let you know, because that's probably where the news and chit-chat and discussion is going to come. I'm going to salute our Racer of the Week. He gets a lot of accolades, won a lot of races, won his 7th championship this year. But man, after being diagnosed with COVID-19 positive, you come back and you run the Grand Prix and still wind up on the podium. My goodness, man. United Kingdom's Lewis Hamilton is the Speedway Report Racer of the Week. I just don't know how you do positive on COVID-19 and come back and still get a podium at the GP. Much respect to Lewis Hamilton. I'm sure Jared Echo will be really mad at me tonight because I picked on Hamilton, but Echo, gosh, he butchers Sky Sports because of all the favoritism he thinks is on the broadcast of Lewis Hamilton. When you win as many races as the guy does, win as many championships, and next year he's likely to surpass Michael Schumacher's laps led record. He's already passed the win total. I think you got to talk about the guy. But of course, I'm sure this award here tonight is bigger than his 7 world championships. In between our broadcasts, keep up on the world of auto racing with SpeedwayReport.com. All of our past shows are uploaded on the site. We've also got plenty of articles to read. On social media, we're on Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds on Facebook. Also on Facebook, we are archived in Racers Reunion. On Twitter, it's at Speedway Report and at Speedway Pat and at racersreunion.com in the forum. And please, like I said at the top of the show, check out our YouTube channel. Big thanks to everyone on the Facebook Live feed tonight. It doesn't scroll up, so I can't follow the conversation, and so the buttons in the screen are a little bit out of reach. Watch. See, I got to go all the way over there to touch the screen. So I don't have the perfect monitors here, but I'll get to you guys after the show. I want to thank all of the military, past and present, for the freedoms we enjoy in America in our daily life, including the simple things like bench racing right here on a Monday night. Freedom is not free, and a veteran paid that bill for us. To all the men and women who are defending freedom and watching Speedway Report, you take care of yourselves and come home soon. A special salute to the teachers, school staff, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics in our own communities. They are quiet and modest heroes every single day. God bless and thank you. You have been watching Speedway Report from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. Please like our Facebook page, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds, and follow me on Twitter at SpeedwayPat. Now, on the Drag Racing List Facebook page, next is Drag List Live. Bill Pratt and John Bachman will take over at the top of the hour. So on Facebook Live right now, head on over to Drag Racing List. Now, I'll be back live here on Facebook Monday, December the 21st, shortest daylight day of the year. We've got all the news that's fit to print and printed to fit, and see what we can do about plugging some of these Formula One grid seats. Thank you all for watching. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. I'll see you all next week.